The grand Elmwood mansion stood tall and proud, its stately facade a testament to the Grayson family's wealth and prestige. For generations, the estate had been a sanctuary, a place where the family's legacy was carefully guarded and upheld. But on this particular day, a quiet unease had settled over the once serene grounds. Daniel, the husband of the mansion owner's daughter, paced the ornate halls, his brow furrowed with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. He had stumbled upon a forgotten trunk in the attic, its contents a tantalizing mystery that had captivated his attention. As he carefully lifted the lid, a flood of memories and secrets spilled forth, revealing a side of his mother-in-law, Maria, that he had never known. The yellowed pages of Maria's diaries and letters painted a vivid picture of her past, a life filled with passion, adventure, and a youthful exuberance that seemed at odds with the reserved and proper woman he had come to know. Daniel's fingers traced the delicate script, his mind racing as he pieced together the fragments of her story. In the diaries, Maria recounted her time in Paris, where she had blossomed into a vibrant and independent woman, unbound by the societal constraints that had once confined her. She spoke of stolen moments in hidden cafes, of whispered conversations under the glow of the Eiffel Tower, and of a love so intense that it had nearly consumed her. As Daniel immersed himself in Maria's words, he found himself drawn to her in a way he had never expected. The prim and proper mother-in-law he had known seemed to melt away, replaced by a woman of depth and complexity, a woman whose spirit had once burned brightly, only to be extinguished by the demands of duty and propriety. The more he read, the more Daniel's fascination grew. He found himself captivated by the vivacity and passion that leapt from the pages, a stark contrast to the reserved and dutiful Maria he had come to know. It was as if he were discovering a new, hidden side to the woman he had thought he knew. Guilt slowly crept into Daniel's mind as he realized the implications of his newfound knowledge. Maria was his wife Emma's mother, and he was delving into the private details of her past without her knowledge or consent. Yet the allure of the untold stories was too strong to resist, and he found himself drawn deeper into the web of Maria's secrets. The mansion, once a bastion of stability and tradition, now seemed to hold a new and intriguing mystery. Daniel's world had been turned upside down, and he knew that his life would never be the same again. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the grand estate in a warm golden glow, Daniel closed the diaries, his mind racing with questions and possibilities. What else had Maria kept hidden from her family? And how would the discovery of her past ultimately shape the future of the Grayson household? Over the following weeks, Daniel found himself spending more and more time with Maria, under the pretense of discussing the old diaries and letters he had discovered. What had started as a casual exploration of her past had evolved into a deep fascination with the woman herself. In the quiet, secluded corners of the Elmwood mansion, Daniel and Maria would meet, their conversations flowing with an intimacy that surprised them both. Maria, usually so proper and reserved, began to open up to Daniel in a way she had never done with anyone else. She shared the intimate details of her youthful adventures in Paris, the passion that had once consumed her, and the dreams she had been forced to abandon. As Maria spoke, Daniel found himself captivated by the vulnerability and fire that burned within her. The prim and proper mother-in-law he had known seemed to melt away, replaced by a woman of depth and complexity, a woman whose spirit had once burned brightly, only to be extinguished by the demands of duty and propriety. In the hidden alcoves and abandoned garden paths of the estate, Daniel and Maria would linger, their voices lowered to soft murmurs, their eyes locked in a silent exchange that spoke volumes. The mansion, once a bastion of stability and tradition, now felt like a sanctuary, a place where they could escape the constraints of their everyday lives and indulge in the forbidden allure of their growing connection. Daniel found himself increasingly drawn to Maria, captivated by the stories she shared and the vulnerability she displayed. He marveled at the depth of her experiences, the passion that had once consumed her, and the resilience that had allowed her to endure the demands of her station. But with each passing day, the guilt gnawed at him, for he was betraying the trust of his wife, Emma, the daughter of the woman he had grown so captivated by. Yet the allure of Maria's untold stories, the depth of her experiences, and the passion that burned within her were too strong to ignore. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the grand estate in a warm golden glow, Daniel and Maria would part ways, their hearts heavy with the weight of their secret. They knew that what was blossoming between them was wrong, that it could never be, and yet they found themselves powerless to resist the pull of the forbidden. In the quiet moments when he was alone, Daniel would find himself replaying their conversations, savoring the way Maria's eyes would sparkle with a newfound vitality, the way her voice would soften and her body would lean in, as if drawn to him by an invisible force. The more he learned about her, the more he yearned to know her, to uncover the layers of her past and understand the woman she had once been. As the days turned into weeks, the clandestine meetings between Daniel and Maria became more frequent, their bond deepening with each passing moment. The tension between Daniel and Maria had reached a fever pitch, their clandestine meetings becoming increasingly fraught with guilt and desperation. The grand Elmwood mansion now felt like a labyrinth of secrets and forbidden desires, trapping them in a web of their own making. Daniel found himself torn, his heart pulled in two directions. On one side, he loved his wife Emma dearly, and the thought of betraying her trust filled him with shame and remorse. Yet, the allure of Maria's captivating past and the deep connection they had forged was an irresistible siren's call, one that he found himself powerless to ignore. As the days passed, Emma began to notice the subtle changes in her husband's demeanor. The once attentive and devoted Daniel had become distant, his mind seemingly elsewhere. She couldn't help but wonder if there was something he was keeping from her, a suspicion that only grew as she observed his increasingly frequent interactions with her own mother. Maria, too, struggled with the weight of their secret. She had tried to distance herself, to put an end to the forbidden bond that had blossomed between them, but Daniel refused to let her go. His persistence, coupled with the undeniable spark that had ignited between them, made it impossible for her to walk away. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the grand estate in a warm golden glow, the truth finally came to light. Emma, her suspicions confirmed, confronted Daniel, the betrayal she felt etched upon her face. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she demanded to know the nature of his relationship with her own mother. Daniel, his heart heavy with guilt, could no longer deny the truth. He confessed to the inappropriate bond that had formed, the stolen moments and whispered conversations that had taken place behind Emma's back. Maria, her resolve crumbling, joined them, her own admission adding to the weight of the revelation. The Grayson household now teetered on the brink of collapse. Emma's world had been shattered, her trust in both her husband and her mother shaken to the core. She struggled to comprehend the depth of the betrayal, her mind reeling with the implications. As the truth sank in, a deafening silence fell upon the mansion. Daniel and Maria, their secret exposed, stood before Emma, their faces etched with a mix of shame and remorse. The once impenetrable walls of the Elmwood estate had been breached, and the Grayson family found itself facing a reckoning that would test the very foundations of their relationships. The future, once so certain, now hung in the balance. Emma's heart had been broken, and the path forward was shrouded in uncertainty. Would she be able to forgive the transgressions of those she had trusted the most? Or would the weight of the betrayal prove too much for the family to bear? In the stillness of the grand estate, the echoes of the confrontation lingered, a testament to the fragility of the human heart and the consequences of succumbing to forbidden desires. The Grayson family, once a bastion of stability, now found themselves at a crossroads, their lives irrevocably altered by the secrets that had been unearthed within the walls of the Elmwood mansion.